Namaste, friends. It is a blessing to be with you this evening. My name is Sunita Vishwanath, and I serve as Executive Director of Hindus for Human Rights. We are a faith-rooted voice, grounded in the Hindu values of truth, satya, nonviolence, ahimsa, and justice, nyaya, working to stand with the vulnerable and to resist oppression in all its forms. Hindus for Human Rights exists because Hinduism, like Christianity, and every faith represented here, is being distorted and weaponized by political movements. In India, that distortion is called Hindutva, or Hindu nationalism, or Hindu supremacy. This Hindutva seeks to create a Hindu supremacist state. In the United States, we're seeing a parallel in Christian nationalism. Both use the sacred language of faith, not to liberate, but to dominate. Hindutva pretends to be a religion, but it is a political ideology which couldn't be further from any of the values or tenets I embrace as a Hindu. Hindutva is truly an aberration of Hindu traditions and teachings, an aberration that is at its core misogynistic. While Hindu teachers emphasize non-harm, ahimsa, as the priority, Hindutva's proponents and its gods are brutal and militaristic. While Hindu philosophy teaches us that the divine has no gender and no form, and that you cannot separate the divine into male and female, you cannot separate Shiva from Shakti, Ram from Sita, the Hindutva gods have no goddesses by their side. While the oldest Hindu texts teach us, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, the truth is one, but the wise call it by different names, that is, the equal importance of all paths, all faiths, all peoples, all perspectives. Hindutva places Hindus above all others and sees India as a nation where Muslims and Christians have no place. Hindus for Human Rights was founded to say, this is not what our faith teaches, not in our name. Our work challenges caste oppression, gender violence, Islamophobia, anti-Christian sentiment, and Hindu nationalism. We build coalitions with people of all faiths to defend pluralism, democracy, and human rights, because these values are at the heart of Hinduism when practiced with integrity. And this is why we are so honored to be a sibling organization and a movement partner to the Religious Nationalisms Project. The Religious Nationalisms Project convenes, educates, and mobilizes faith communities across the country to recognize and resist religious nationalism in all its forms. Too often, people see Christian nationalism, Hindu nationalism, Zionism as separate phenomena. The Religious Nationalisms Project helps us connect these dots. These movements reinforce one another, they draw legitimacy from one another, and they rely on patriarchy, authoritarianism, and fear. Together, and only together, we can model another way, a way rooted in love of gods and neighbors, in human dignity, and in a pluralism where all can flourish. My Hindu faith teaches me that the divine dwells equally and identically in every being. The Bhagavad Gita tells me that the wise see all of us with equal vision, Sama Darshini. This radical inclusiveness and equality compels us to fight caste, which says some are pure and some impure. It compels us to resist Hindutva, which says India belongs only to Hindus and that Hindus are superior to others. But religious nationalism always masks hierarchy with holiness. In India, Hindutva leaders cite scripture to preserve caste privilege and deny Muslims and Christians their full humanity. In the US, Christian nationalists similarly invoke the Bible to strip away women's autonomy and the rights of the LGBTQ+ community. My dharma tells me to stand against both. Hinduism reveres the feminine as Shakti, the source of life itself. But Hindutva, like Christian nationalism, enforces patriarchy. In India, anti-conversion laws are framed as protecting Hindu women from love jihad, but in reality, they police women's freedom, all women's freedom, including Hindu women's freedom, to choose their own partners and their own religions. The Modi government still refuses to close the marital rape loophole, claiming a wife's consent is permanent once she marries. Women from caste-oppressed and minority backgrounds face the worst violence of all. Dalit and Adivasi women are routinely attacked, harassed, raped, murdered with impunity. Muslim women have not only faced this personal physical violence, but also harassment online, where they have been subjected to auction apps, where they are virtually sold off in auctions as if they were property of the Hindu men. This is not protection of women, it is their control. Let me ground all of this in today's headlines. India 2025. 2 Catholic nuns in Chhattisgarh were arrested under fabricated conversion charges for simply accompanying tribal women. Across India, Hindutva vigilantes justify violence against women in the name of protecting Hindu society. Karnataka 2025, a new Devadasi bill criminalizes temple exploitation but excludes younger women survivors through arbitrary age limits, another example of women's suffering being minimized. Manipur 2023 to 2025. In India's northeast, Christian and tribal women have borne unspeakable violence during ongoing ethnic clashes. Hundreds upon hundreds of churches and homes have been torched and burned down, and women brutalized, while the state has largely looked away. Here in the United States, Christian nationalism has rolled back reproductive rights, restricted gender-affirming care, and, as we've heard from political leaders like Vice President Vance, threatened even no-fault divorce, trapping women in abusive marriages. What's more, Hindutva adherents in the United States have joined hands with Christian and Jewish nationalists to decimate the American democracy. There were Hindu nationalists among the mobs that attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. And the white Christian nationalist Steve Bannon is, wait for it, honorary co-chair of the Hindu Republican Council. Astonishing? I thought so too. And our faith, our conscience, and our humanity compels us to speak of all of this and perhaps the most urgent catastrophe of our time, Gaza. The world has watched with grief and horror as unspeakable violence has been unleashed across the region. Entire families, neighborhoods, towns, communities have been destroyed, erased. It is a wound that reverberates far beyond the Middle East, touching all of us who believe that every human life is sacred. From the beginning of our organization, Hindus for Human Rights has spoken out for peace in Palestine, and with even greater urgency in this past 2 years of genocide. And we have not stood alone. Our friends at the Religious Nationalisms Project traveled just as we did as part of interfaith delegations to the West Bank to see for ourselves what occupation and siege and genocide mean for ordinary people. Together we prayed, we listened, we bore witness, and we served through protective presence, and we returned with a conviction that silence is complicity. This struggle is not separate from India, from Kashmir, from Sudan, or from the United States. It is the same story of authoritarian power cloaking itself in religion, the same machinery of dehumanization. And so, our response must also be the same. Faith communities standing together, refusing to be divided, proclaiming freedom and dignity for all. All these struggles reinforce each other. In February 2025, just a few months ago, President Donald Trump met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and conspicuously they avoided addressing human rights or minority protections in either country. Authoritarian leaders find comfort in one another, and their silence enables violence across borders. Friends, religious nationalism is global. It thrives on fear, patriarchy, and control. But authentic faith, whether Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, or simply faith in each other, calls us to something else, something higher: compassion, justice, love, the refusal to be divided from each other. If we are truly people of faith and conscience, then we cannot be silent when entire communities are being massacred. Whether in Sudan, India, Kashmir, Gaza, the call is the same: to stand together for life, for dignity, and for freedom. Dr. Martin Luther King once called people of faith to Selma. He said, "I am appealing to men and women of goodwill, of all faiths and colors, to come to Selma without delay." That call echoes still. Today, it summons us to stand together against all forms of religious nationalism, to defend democracy, and to proclaim that every life is sacred. The Religious Nationalisms Project equips us to answer this call. And as Hindus for Human Rights, we are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, to reject distorted religion, to uphold democracy, and to build a beloved community, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, a sacred family that includes all of us, where every soul is honored. I end with a prayer of unity and love from my heart to each of you. This is a bhajan, a worship song from the followers of Satya Sai Baba, a guru who lived in our time. The bhajan names the gods of Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Zoroastrians, Jains as one divine force for Sarva Dharma, the well-being of all. Om Allah Ishwar tum ho, Yesu Buddha Prabhu tum ho, Zoroastra Mahavir tum ho, Sai Ram ho, Sai Krishna ho, Sai Ram ho, Sai Krishna ho, Sarva Dharma Prabhu tum ho, Shri Satya Sai Prabhu tum ho. Om Shanti.